And I read this column that was describing firefighters as if they were sort of Nazi infiltrators, well, communist infiltrators into the body politic, actual firefighters. I read this column and I listened to callers to my show and to other shows on LBC, and I saw what happened. I watched members of the public being groomed and gaslit into attacking firefighters, believing nonsense about them all having second homes in Ibiza and commuting from Barbados to do the job. And everything changed for me. Not overnight, but my old boss was right. I didn't used to be political. And then I started listening to you, for good and for ill, because I'd take call after call after call from firefighters, and I'd sit here utterly baffled about how anybody could have been so completely turned against the people that run into our house when it's on fire with the intention of carrying us and our children out. How can they ever have been our enemies? That's when I became political. Fast forward to the junior doctors' industrial action, and I wish we'd dropped the word junior from that for a whole heap of reasons. Fast forward to the doctors' strike, the non-consultant level doctors' strike, a couple of years ago, and it became even more stark that this Murdoch stroke, Mail stroke, Telegraph-led grooming process persuaded huge swathes of the British public, and I'm afraid obviously plenty of broadcasters are deeply guilty of this as well, encouraging the British public to turn on doctors. Just think about that in the context of what we just did a moment ago. The 140 healthcare workers whose death we properly commemorated, inadequately, but properly. Think about that on Thursday night when you're standing on your doorstep hitting a saucepan with a wooden spoon. Were you one of the people that used to ring LBC putting the boot into doctors and claiming they were greedy? Because you can't really do both with a clean conscience, can you? And unless they had demonised doctors so successfully, so disgustingly, I genuinely wonder whether they could have got away with this appalling depletion of PPE. Absolutely highlighted put into a stark relief on Panorama last night, but very little in that programme would have come as a surprise to you if you've been listening to this programme, because the doctors and the nurses kept telling us. And then, of course, the same people that turned you against doctors during the doctors' strike, the same people that turned you against firefighters when firefighters were asking for your support as their pensions and their terms and conditions came under assault, the same people that turned you against teachers, the people into whose hands we entrust our children's lives every morning at 8:45, they became our enemies when they asked for our help in fighting some of the policies of the last 10 years. The doctors, the nurses, the firefighters, the teachers. If you got turned against all of them, then you're probably complicit in the scenario we're currently contemplating, where we're asking them to go to work ill-equipped. They're already understaffed. We know that. We know that Brexit is going to take another huge chunk out of the NHS staffing levels. And we know now, unless you're really, really clinging to it, we know now that the phrase, "we should train our own," was one of the most despicable examples of subtle racism that this country will ever see.
We as a society like to attack heroes, but especially when those heroes are ordinary people providing a necessary service for that very same society. I see it as a sick envy. The vast majority of people have no real meaning in their lives, and because of their own failings, they seek to tear down those who have found meaning. It's a type of sickness when we as a society build people up and sing them as heroes one minute, then to just tear them down the very next. We bask in the glory that these heroes have achieved. In a way, we feel part of that achievement in a sort of twisted psychological way. But when those people demand something that is not superhuman, such as a better wage or conditions of employment, or even the necessary equipment to do their job, we turn around and smear them as entitled or greedy. The most pathetic thing is that we have more respect for two-bit politicians who have lied and lied to us on numerous occasions, some of whom have appeared on the same radio station as James, but somehow have avoided the demonization that is dealt out to the true heroes of society, such as the examples given in James's monologue, the teachers, the firefighters, and the NHS staff. The idiots, and I will say idiots, who shout the loudest are too freaking lazy to actually think for themselves. They want rags of newspapers to do their thinking for them. They want to be told what to think, even if they are told to hate one group one week and love the same group the very next week. It doesn't matter. We are a sick society that is driven by anti-intellectualism and cheap focus group-driven slogans, which are a means to distract us from the real problems we face. This, of course, existed long before Brexit, but Brexit was probably the point the people James is talking about voted away their children's future because they bought the lies of charlatans and crooks, be them in the media or in Parliament. It is time for people to stop listening to the empty cans, to start speaking to the true heroes in our society, the ones who look after our kids, take care of our elderly, and save our lives. The last few months have done a great deal of damage to our communities, our economies, and our society as a whole. I hope something good can come out of this, but it will require us closing our ears to the easy message from those who we know deep down don't really care about our interests. Let me know in the comments, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are much appreciated. Thanks.